In this video, I'm going to show you how to avoid this exact situation here, which is when the ball goes through the middle of two players, in this case, two professional players. But that ball in the middle can cause a lot of trouble when we're playing out on the pickleball court. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to avoid this situation here. You'll see it again. Ball's going to come through the middle. Both players look at each other. The old saying, middle solves the riddle, applies in pickleball because of this type of confusion that can happen. My name is Tony Roig. It's a pleasure to be with you in this video. We are discussing Respect the X in this video, and I'm going to show you exactly how it works. And then we're going to come back and watch some more pro footage to break it down for you. So here we have four players. They're all professional players on our pickleball court. And what we're trying to deal with is the shots that come into the middle of the court, the shots that are traveling through the middle. Let me show you what we're not dealing with. What we're not dealing with is we're not dealing with balls that are coming out here like this, right? So that kind of shot there, that's clearly this player's ball over here, right? If it was over here, right, again, no question. The Respect the X is not about these types of balls. What Respect the X is about, it's about this type of shot here. So who handles this ball here? Now, what Respect the X does is it says we're going to have a principle or guideline or rule, if you like better, that we're going to use, which connects these players. So this player is connected to this player, and this player is connected to this player. Okay? So if the ball is traveling along this part of the x-axis, then it is usually going to be this player's ball. If it's traveling on this part of the axis, right, in the middle, then it's going to belong to this player and vice versa. So Respect the X is the concept that allows you to know who's going to cover that middle ball so that you don't have this confusion in the middle, which is usually where players run into trouble. Now, there are times that you can break the X, and we're going to look at that in some of the pro video we're going to look at in a second. And I'm also going to show you some ways that the X is powerful, and when you don't use it, the kind of risk that you can that can happen to you. So let's go ahead and dive into some of this. Let's look at Respect the X in action. So here you're going to see Respect the X in action. These are the same players that were on our board a second ago here. You see that ball travels along that line there, and this player gets it. Same here. The ball's traveling in this direction, right? Let me back it up so you can see it again. So I'll show you the first shot here. So the drive comes in, right? Good drive to the open space. And then this drop here, you can see it's traveling along this direction of the X, right? This direction of the X. That means it's going to be the player in black on the opposite side. So she's going to take that ball. You can see the way the ball travels as well. It travels into her body. It's an easier shot for her to hit than if she was reaching away. Same thing with this one. Even though it's right in the middle, right? It's coming this way. That means it's going to be the player in black's ball. This one, right, traveling the other way, that's Respect the X in action right there. This is the kind of shot I talked about earlier where it doesn't matter. I mean, you know, the Respect the X doesn't apply because it's out here. The one in the middle here, you can see a little bit of confusion there, right? So let's back that up so you can see that here. I'll back it up a little bit more so you can see the last shot here. So in this case here, you have the ball traveling in this direction, right? That's a good ball for the player in black to take. The player in the white takes this ball. Here's the thing, if you're not applying Respect the X and the player in white decides not to take this ball, that's when you're in trouble if you don't apply Respect the X. The same thing I showed you earlier with the two pro players and the ball traveling through the middle. So usually when the ball is traveling in this direction, you're going to want this player to be getting set to hit the ball. If this player decides to take it by breaking the X, that's fine, but at least you have it covered and it never goes through, okay? So the next ball here you're going to see is you're going to see the ball come into the middle, right? So here you have a good application of Respect the X. You have this player here, right? I have this player here getting set up to hit it, and this player here is thinking about hitting it. Now what you'll see is that the player in the white decides to let it go, right? Good decision. And then the player in the black is in a good position to hit that ball. That's a perfect application of Respect the X by these two players in order to hit that ball. Same thing here. You see them set up. I'll back it up again so you can see that. So you see the ball coming across. So you see this player set up to hit it, and this player is going to hit it, right? So they're both getting ready to hit the ball. That's fine. Double coverage better than no coverage. So you have this player getting ready to hit along the X. This player, Jorja, decides to hit it, and that's perfectly fine, right? She breaks the X there. This is the kind of shot, right? There's nothing to think about. No respect the X here because the ball's going to the outside, so that's clearly that player's ball, right? So respect the X is a middle ball concept. That's good respect the X. The ball's coming across this way. This player, the player in the white on this side is going to hit it. Again, no respect the X there. Here you have respect the X again, right? But now you have the ball's coming this way. All right, let me change this to some yellow so you might be able to see the yellow a little bit better. So you're coming across this way. This player's going to hit it. That's okay for this player to hit it. But it's better if you have this player also preparing to hit the ball in case. What you don't want is, again, nobody to hit it, and you also don't want confusion, okay? So here you have the same thing. You have the ball coming this way. This player decides to hit it, perfectly fine to break the X. This player's ready to hit it just in case. That's what you want to see. Good use of respect the X there. Same thing here. Again, player in black setting up, player in white taking. Perfect application of respect the X. All right, here we're going to look at some mixed doubles here. Okay, so here we're going to look at this player here, CJ, is going to be in a defensive position. This is a great example of respect the X defensively. Okay, so Madi, his partner, has moved up. Okay, this ball is going to travel this way. A lot of players here, what they do, this player will stick their paddle out here like this, take this ball here, creates an error. Instead, what you want to do is let this ball travel along the X. Right, the X connects these players. So the X from Bobbi connects with CJ like this. So you want CJ to take this ball, the player in black. That's a good use of the X there. Madi lets it through. Another ball here, right? Same thing here, right? Madi could reach out maybe and take that ball, but she doesn't. She lets it travel through the X to CJ. Is a much better defensive shot there, applying respect the X. So that's how you want to use respect the X defensively when you're in the transition zone, okay? Next, we're going to look at breaking the X, different situations where you can break the X, so you get a sense of what that looks like. Again, this is a mixed doubles. We're going to see a poach here by this player, which is Will Howells. He's going to poach a ball, okay? Because technically, if CJ hits it this way, that ball goes to Bobbi, who's back here, the player in the back. The problem is, if you let that ball go through to this player is moving, right? That's a tough ball. This player, Will, up here in the white, has a better shot at it. So he's going to break the X and poach that ball. That's a perfectly good example of breaking the X. In fact, not only is it good, it's recommended that you break the X there. Here we're going to see another example of breaking the X. This time it's going to be CJ who's coming up here who's going to break it. I'm going to show you two different scenarios. I'm going to show you a successful one and a not successful one. Here, see how that ball is traveling through the middle, right? So let me back it up. So you have Will's going to attack the ball from here this way, right, through the middle. Applying the X, that would be Madi's ball. CJ's going to step in and cut it off and hit a nice little poach winner, as you'll see. So that's a good break in the X, right? It's fine to break the X there. But I'm going to show you exactly the same situation in a second where this part of the court being open is going to be a problem in the next one, okay? So it's going to be the same situation where you're going to have a poach by CJ coming across. So you see a poach by CJ in the middle there, right? So he takes that ball and then he comes over, right? Now technically he's not breaking the X, but he's really coming over far into Madi's side, right? So hitting a ball from a similar spot, right? Actually, she technically hit the ball, but see how he's coming over to poach that, opening up this side of the court. That's just something you got to think about if you're going to break the X, because when you break the X, you open up that side of the court, and then Will's able to put it behind CJ. So that's just something to think about when you're making decisions about breaking the X. Here we're going to see the risk of playing without respect the X. Okay, so this is sometimes this happens when you're playing without following respect the X. You're going to see some errors in these rallies that occur because of not respecting the X. I believe this one here is an attack that's going to end up going through the middle here. So you're going to see the player in the black is attacking the middle there. I'll back it up in a second. The ball goes clean through, right? So here you're going to have an attack ball here through the middle of these two players. There's confusion here. Who's going to take this ball? So nobody takes the ball, just like I showed you earlier with Bobbi and Will, right? They let that ball go through and they look at each other saying, whose ball was that? If you apply the X, then that would be this player's ball, right? Because the ball is traveling in her direction. If it was traveling in this direction, then it would be this player's ball, clearly, right? Because there's no middle confusion there. There's no way this player can hit a ball over here. But since the ball is traveling across like this, then it is going to be this player's ball. And if you just have that, ready to roll, then you don't have this momentary, is it yours, is it mine, and the ball travels through. That's the power of respecting the X in these situations. Here I'm going to show you again the shot that goes through the middle here. You can see how you know, Bobbi and Will just kind of look at each other and this ball just dribbles through them because there's a momentary, you know, thought of, okay, is it yours, is it mine? And that creates the loss there. Let me show you a really nice, complete Respect the X rally here. We're just going to walk through this one from the earlier women's match we've been watching. So you're going to see how these balls are basically traveling nicely towards the Respect the X. Everybody's respecting the X with these balls. There's really good use of the principle, right? No question as to who's hitting these balls based on the way that the ball's traveling. And it just very nice, again, use of the rule, no confusion in the middle on these balls. Here you have the one, remember we talked about this one where you have the setup and the grab by the back player. Here you have, again, good use of the X there. So you can see how the pros are using this just to make sure that they take the right ball. That's breaking the X, but it's an intentional breaking of the X. Again, an intentional breaking of the X with the player in the black ready to go. Just really good all the way around. So here we're going to see the good and the could be better, I guess, not the good and the bad. So we're going to see a good Respect the X. So this is an example here of breaking the X offensively. Okay, so you have a return going this way, right? Normally be handled by the player in white back here. Player in black has a very nice forehand from there. So she's going to come over and she's going to attack this shortish return of serve with her forehand. This is an example of breaking the X, right? The X is this. This player's coming across and breaking it. That's perfectly fine in this scenario because it makes sense under the circumstances, okay? So it's a good breaking of the X there by her. It's an attack, but you can see the attack opens up this side of the court, and I want to show you something else here. The attack opens up this side of the court, right? And she's going to drive it through here. Now, when she drives it through here, again, going back to the X, that ball belongs to this player, okay? This player, Jorja, is actually going to try and poach the ball, which I think is the right move, right? It's good for her to try and break the X too here because her partner is still moving, right? She's still moving up. She's under stress. Why not take this ball and help your partner out? You're going to see Jorja come over to try and poach, right? I'm going to show it to you in a second. She's going to basically, her paddle's going to stop here, but she doesn't hit the ball, right? She didn't see it or something, but Millie is ready to take the ball and can hit it. So you'll see here. See how she's basically, Jorja's coming over to try and hit it, but she misses it, right? But because Millie is ready on the X, that ball does not travel through. She's ready to hit it even though the poach. So that's a really good example of how the X works holistically between the two partners. Here at the end, what we're going to see is we're actually going to see a bad breaking of the X in a second, and you're going to see what can happen. So here we're going to have this ball is traveling this way, okay? So who should hit that ball? By now you know. The player in white. But the player in black is going to decide to poach this ball. Problem is this ball is not going to be poachable. And watch as she goes to hit it. Look at her extension, right? Super difficult to hit from this position, right? Look how complicated that is mechanically. She comes out to hit it, and that is not going to end well for the team. That is a breaking of the X where you shouldn't break the X and let the X do its job. So Respect the X is a very powerful principle that you can use. Use it when you play with partners who understand pickleball. It's a great rule to apply. You also understand you can break the X. We have a guide that's comprehensive. It has all of these concepts and more inside this guide. It's the most comprehensive guide on Respect the X, which we originated about 6 years ago as a concept to be used in pickleball to help you resolve that middle coverage. I'll put a link up here and down in the show notes. It's free. Go get your comprehensive guide on Respect the X, and you'll play better pickleball. I'll see you inside our next video.